So today's video is going to be the top 20 books that I want to read in 2020. I did a video of the top 10 series that I want to read in 2020, and this list does include some series, but they're like first books in a series where, for the most part, first books in the series where the rest of the series isn't out yet. Like there's no book 2 yet, to my knowledge. That's not true of the first one because I didn't realize the first one was a series until I looked it up on Goodreads to put it on my Goodreads list. So I didn't realize that was a series, but other than that, they are anything like they're mostly standalones, but anything that is a series is the first in a series where the rest of the series isn't out yet. So it's like the only book in a series that's out. So I hope that makes sense. Getting right into it, because 20 books is a lot to talk about, and I'm not trying to make this video like 20 minutes long. Okay, so the first book on this list is a book that was not on my radar until recently. Emily Rose did a video on her channel about why she thinks everyone should read this book, but she can't. And I thought that was a very intriguing title for a video. So of course I had to watch it. And she actually really highly recommends this book, despite the fact that she can't read it, which if you want to know why, you should go to her video. I'll link it in the description if you want to see that in a little bit more detail. But that book is Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. And this is the book that I didn't realize was a series because I literally know nothing about this book except what she said in her video. But yeah, apparently it's part of a series. I don't really know too much about this book because she said that's actually the best way to go into it. All I know is it's about a man who answers like a want ad in like a local newspaper of a teacher looking for students. And he goes to this place to meet this person, and it's a gorilla, and the gorilla has a story to tell. And that's literally all I know about this book. And that she says it's a very important book to read. So it piqued my interest. I am very interested, and it made it as the first book on my list of 20 books that I want to read in 2020. So the second book on this list, and these are in no particular order, by the way. This isn't like ranked in order of like how I want to read them or whatever. This is just a list of 20 books that I came up with. They're not in any order at all, just so you know. At all. No order. So the second book on this list is Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren. I read Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, was the first book that I read in 2019, and then I also read The Unhoneymooners by them, so I read 2 of their books in 2019. This was actually one of my most anticipated books in 2019, and I just didn't get to it, so it's kind of a carryover. And it is, basically I think it's a second chance romance. I don't really know that much about it, I just know that I really enjoyed their last 2 books that they came out with, so I want to read this one. The next book on this list is A Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I read An Enchantment of Ravens a couple of years ago now. Was it just last year? And I really enjoyed it. It was a standalone YA fantasy, which you don't really get a whole lot of standalone fantasy, so that's like the main reason I grabbed it. And this is another one. It's a standalone fantasy. A Sorcery of Thorns is about, okay, so this girl, I don't know her name. She either lives or works or like is connected to a library in some way. And like in this world, sorcery is like a known evil. Like you don't mess with sorcery. And one day, like these grimoires come to life or like something happens with these grimoires and she ends up having to work with a sorcerer. And it's a YA fantasy. So I assume there's going to be some like hate to love, like romance aspect to it. So I'm excited. I want to read it. So next I have The Guinevere Deception by Kiersten White. It is the first book in a series, but I believe it's the only one that's published at the moment. I think it came out last year or earlier. It might have even come out earlier this year. And it is basically a gender-bent retelling of King Arthur. And that's all I really know about it. And that's all I really need to know about it. So I'm interested. And I think that was actually a book I wanted to read this year too. And it's going to be a carryover because I didn't get to it this year. Okay, so the next book I have is Fate of the Fallen by Kel Cade. It is the first in a series again. It came out in November of this year. And it is... So what I know about it, I'm going to be doing a really bad job of giving like a synopsis for each of these books because I haven't read them. So please excuse. Fate of the Fallen is like, I think it's a Chosen One story. There's like a prophecy and this kid from a small village is prophesied to be like the savior of like the savior of the world from whatever. And I don't know. Bobby from the channel Bobby Reads Too Much talked about it. And she made it sound really interesting, a lot more interesting than I'm making it sound. So yeah, I put it on my list right away when she was talking about it because it sounded really interesting. How many times can we use the word interesting? Everything is interesting. So yeah, I want to read it. Okay, so my next one is Imaginary Friend by, oh, I'm going to butcher this, Stephen Chbosky? The guy that wrote The Perks of Being a Wallflower. He wrote that. That was a coming of age book. And then his next book published was this one. It just came out, Imaginary Friend. It's an adult horror, I believe. And it's about this mother and her son. And the son one day disappears in the woods. And he's not heard from again for an extended period of time. He disappears, maybe it was 6 weeks. It might have been 6 weeks. He disappears in the woods, and then when he comes back, he is different in a bad way. That's all I know. That's all I want to know. It's a horror, so the less you know, the better it's going to be, in my opinion, I feel like. So, yeah, I want to read that. Okay, the next one is a chunker. It is The Stand by Stephen King. I bought it at Barnes & Noble. I had a gift card, and it was only $10, so I bought it. And I've never read any Stephen King before, but that one just sounded really good. I hear, like, everyone that reads it says, like, you will feel sick when you read it. Like, it will make you sick to read this book. Because it's about, like, the entire population getting ill in one way or another. So, yeah. I like to take chances. I want to read a book that might make me sick. Why not? The next book on this list is Recursion by Blake Crouch. I don't really know much about this book. I've been interested in it since it came out, but I haven't picked it up yet. I wanted to read Dark Matter first, but then after I read Dark Matter, I watched someone's video. I don't even remember whose video it was, but I watched someone's video where they said that if you read Dark Matter first, you're not going to be as impressed with Recursion. So now I'm kind of giving myself a little bit of time in between the two so that I can come down off the high of Dark Matter before I go into Recursion with a clear and open mind. I feel like it's something to do with your memories. I'm really interested in it. I want to read it, and it is on the list. Okay, next is The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. Again, my summary is going to be terrible because I haven't read the book, so I don't really know what it's about. But I think it's something to do with this guy is trying to earn some extra money or something, so he rents out his apartment for the time of day that he's not there, like, to this girl. So, like, one of them works during the day and one of them works at night, so one of them stays there during the day and then one of them stays there during the night, and, like, they communicate through, like, little notes to each other. And they fall in love. And that's all I know about this book. But it sounds interesting and it sounds cute, so I want to read it. Okay, so the next one is, I think it's the only nonfiction on this list, which I really need to get better about reading nonfiction. I start off strong at the beginning of the year, every year, and then it just peters off by the end. I'm reading all fantasy and romance. The next one is called White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism, and it is by Robin DiAngelo. It deals with how white people tend to react when their assumptions about race are challenged in any way, and talking about how that defense mechanism of, like, anger or, like, aggression is really counterproductive. Like, it helps to maintain racial inequality. And I think that's a really important topic, especially these days. So yeah, that is kind of like my nonfiction pick for the year. I wanted to make sure I put one on this list at least to kind of make sure that I am actively reading nonfiction. And I also want to go a step farther and say a lot of the nonfiction I read is like memoir style books. So I want to broaden my horizons a little bit with my nonfiction. So, and this book I thought was really an interesting choice because back in college, I was a cultural and linguistic anthropology major, which is why I work at a bakery now. But I had this one professor, his name was Dr. Page, and I took several classes with him, and his classes were mainly focused on racial inequality in the US. I think I took like 3 or 4 classes with him. So, I mean, obviously I was interested in the topic. But yeah, but I haven't actively like ingested any material on the subject in a very long time. So this book seems like something that would have been assigned for one of his classes. So I feel like it's a good place to get myself reacquainted with the topic. Okay, the next one is My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. Well, especially this one, it's a thriller. I don't really know that much about it, and I don't really want to. All I know is that I've heard it's kind of like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith type thing. Like this married couple wants to spice up their marriage by killing people and getting away with it. And that just sounds weird and awesome, and I want to read it. Okay, the next one is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, however you pronounce that name. Again, it's a thriller. I don't want to know too much, but all I know is it's about a woman who is accused of shooting her husband, and she goes to prison or whatever, and she doesn't say another word. Like from that second on, she will not say a word to defend herself, to incriminate herself. She just won't talk. She says nothing. And yeah, that's all I really know about this book. Like, I've watched some reviews for it and stuff, but like I said, it's a thriller. I don't really want to know that much. Okay, and then the final 8 books that I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to kind of name off real quick because I don't know anything about them and they're not out yet. So I'll just give you the name. If I know anything about them, I'll let you know, and then the publication date. So the first is Scavenge the Stars by Tara Sim. It comes out January 7th, and it is a gender-bent retelling of The Count of Monte Cristo, which is my favorite classic. So I'm very excited about this book. It's kind of a YA Count of Monte Cristo in space. So obviously I want to read it because that sounds awesome. Okay, the next is You Were There Too by Colleen Oakley. This comes out January 7th as well, I believe. So it's about this woman, and she's married and she has like the perfect life or whatever. And then she starts having these recurring dreams about this man who is not her husband. And then her husband and her relocate to small town somewhere or other, USA. And the man from her dreams lives in that town, and it turns out that he's been having dreams about her too. So it sounds a little bit weird. It sounds a little bit interesting, and I want to read it. The next book is coming out on January 14th, and that is Followers by Megan Angelo. This one, I'm a little confused as to what it's about, but it sounds intriguing. You have this writer who writes for like gossip magazines, and then this wannabe A-lister, and they somehow come together to try to get like really famous online, like on social media, and it works. But then there's this other character like 35 years later that I don't really understand where she plays in, but I just remember when I read the synopsis, it sounded really interesting. So okay, so the next one is Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. It comes out on January 14th. This one almost didn't make the list. I'm not sure how I feel about this one or if I'm going to read this one. So this is the second book that comes after Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. And I wanted to read that one, but then I started hearing things about it that kind of turned me off to it. Like it's a romance, and it's quite the steamy romance from what I've heard. And while I'm not like completely opposed to that, I don't know, like the romantic interest calls the girl baby girl and stuff, and that's just kind of weird to me. And I feel like that's like the main problem that a lot of people had with it, because I feel like I think I see that in a lot of people's reviews of that book. So I don't know if I can make it through that book to get to this one, but this one sounds a lot more interesting. It's about a married couple like trying to save their marriage, I think. And I'm a lot more interested in that, but I don't know if I need to read Fix Her Up first before I can read this one, or if I'm going to be okay like not having the background of the characters. I'm going to kind of wait and see what people say about it once more people have read it before I make a decision. But as of right now, I'm intrigued. Don't know if I'll actually read it, but I'm intrigued. The next one is The Stars We Steal by Alexa Dunn. This one comes out February 4th, and again, I don't really know that much about it. It sounds like a science fiction romance though, like a young adult science fiction romance. So that just sounds fun to me. It takes place in space on spaceships and stuff. So yeah, I don't know a lot about this one, but it sounded cute and interesting, so I want to read it. The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren comes out on March 24th, I believe, and it sounds like a hate to love involving like the stars of like a home renovation reality TV show, like an HGTV or like a Bravo whatever kind of show. So that just sounds really fun to me. And I've had good, I think I already said earlier in this video, I had good luck with my 2 Christina Lauren books that came out this past, or that I read this past year. So I'm really looking forward to this one. You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle comes out on April 7th, and it is described as a love to hate to love story where these 2 people are engaged and they have grown to kind of despise each other, but their wedding date is so close that whoever breaks off the engagement has to pay for the entire wedding because it's too late to cancel it. So it sounds like it's just going to be a lot of like pranks and like hijinks and like trying to get the other person to break up with you. It just sounds really fun. And you know me, I love hate to love. So, okay. And the last book that I'm going to talk about today comes out in July of 2020. And that is Transcendent Kingdom by, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Gyasi. I'm sorry if I butchered that. This is a story about a family from Ghana trying to assimilate into small town Alabama. And I think it seems like it's just going to be kind of about the struggles of their life trying to fit into this community that is probably not the most open and inviting, if I know anything about small town southern USA. No offense. I love the South. But yeah, that's all I know about that one. I don't really know that much, but I remember, again, it's the same with all of these. Again, I read the synopsis. It sounded really interesting. I want to read it. So yeah, 20 books. I just talked about 20 books. This video is going to be forever long, but if you stuck around to the end, thank you. Let me know if you're interested in reading any of these books because a lot of them sounded really good. I know my summaries aren't the greatest, but if any of them kind of caught your attention, let me know. I'd love to know what other people are interested in reading and what some of your top books for 2020 are going to be. And yeah, that is it for this video. I need to go get a drink of water. I'm a little parched, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.